So tonight we were invited out to a press screening of the movie Bring Her Back. And we went to the wrong theater. And it was a series of unfortunate events. They usually hold it at the same one. Blah, blah, blah. They put it at a different one for the first time ever. I didn't notice that they changed the theater. Doesn't matter. We drove all the way out to see it. Wasn't playing where we went, so we didn't get to see it early. And I was like, well, the kids are at their grandmother's. We have the night. Final Destination came out tonight. We were going to miss it for that movie. So we saw this one instead. I had to drive all the way back to town. That is not your concern. What is your concern is our review here of Final Destination Bloodlines. So this actually kind of felt like a series of events leading up to our death with so many things that were happening because they were just so not what we were expecting in so many different ways. As far as the premise goes, I don't really think that's exactly necessary, but if you do want to know a little bit more or something, if you've never seen a Final Destination movie, I'll save that for after our thoughts on it. But we, as always, like to go into these things blind, but it's a Final Destination movie. Yeah. I think you know the gimmick at this point. People survive something they're not supposed to, and death comes back to collect the souls that he missed out on. Yeah, with this franchise, I mean, I'm a huge fan of it. I think it is one of the most overlooked franchises when it comes to like the big franchises that get mentioned all the time. I've always thought this was an insanely consistent franchise, and this is a franchise that I will come back to the theater and see 500 entries. This is just one that works so well for me. And this movie is no exception for that. This is great, as expected. I always have a wonderful time with Final Destination movies. This feels like a Final Destination in every way. The setups for everything, the revelations, all of that stuff, very Final Destination. So if you're a Final Destination fan, then yeah, I think you're going to have a great time. We always pay attention, or at least I very much do, to the crowd's reactions. And while the crowd wasn't really reacting much during the film, there wasn't a lot of laughter or shocks of that was crazy. So I was like, at first I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But then when we walked out, everyone around us, I listened to probably 15, 20 people being like, oh my God, I love that. That was my favorite one in the franchise. Or like that and number 2 are tied for my favorite. Everyone walked out and was like talking about it and loving it. So I do love to get that audience kind of reaction and gauge from everyone's discussions. And I will say everybody I listened to was very pleased with this. So the other person in the theater, though, that we have not heard from because I won't shut the fuck up,
100.
Is my wife.
I liked it. I thought that I'm not a big Final Destination fan or anything, but I thought that this was a really satisfying movie. I think that they're very you're watching to see how everybody's gonna die ultimately.
Yeah.
You want to see the people how long can they avoid it for or whatever, but at the end of the day you're just watching to see all these crazy deaths. And that's definitely the standout of the movies is how creative the kills can be, and how you can pay attention to all these little clues that kind of tip you, clue you into how the death will occur or whatever.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty entertaining. There's a decent amount of CGI, obviously. For some reason, I was very noticing it. I don't know if that means that it's really bad. I don't think it's bad. I just was very aware of it.
Yeah.
So that might be a turnoff, I think, to some people, but I thought that the gore in this was really great. I liked our main character and the other characters as well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were very entertaining. So overall, I had a really good time with this.
Yeah, and that's coming from someone who's not a huge fan of the franchise. But how would you rank this against the others?
I don't know. I mean, it's... you had said you thought it might be one of the best.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I truthfully don't remember all of the other films.
Oh, okay.
So I don't feel like I can say, but it was good.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this has a pretty loyal fan base, the ones that are super into this. And I do think this will please most. My buddy Wyatt, who I'm very in line with, he was more on your side of things, talking about how every death in the movie was CG and it didn't look that great, and that there's no practicals in this movie at all.
Yeah, there was like none.
And how stupid the movie was, and like every how it was written, and the characters were dumb, and all this stuff. I disagree with him on a lot of that. He still gave it a 3.5 out of 5. But I don't know. I thought that this was unique in a way. Because I will talk now about the premise. If you don't want to know anything about that, if you avoided the trailers like I did no idea what this was about, other than it's a Final Destination movie, and you can kind of fill in the blanks there. It is a very traditional Final Destination film in most ways. But the one differing aspect of this movie, and I think this is all given away in the trailer.
Yeah.
That it's like in the future kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I remember.
But anyway, the whole premise of the Bloodlines thing here, once again, this is spoiler-ishy. So I didn't see the trailer. But you did.
I did, but now I'm like, I don't remember all of it, so now I'm worried.
Anyway, the premise is very similar to the other movies in that someone has a premonition, they save a bunch of people's lives, and then death comes back for them. The twist here being that someone saves a lot of lives, and this takes a long time to get back to them, so much so that we're many years in the future, and a lot of these people have families and kids, and they're bloodlines, and that death is going to circle back around eventually and come for everyone, including the bloodlines that should not exist, because those people shouldn't have been able to have kids. They should have died in this thing. So it's just a longer period of time before death circles around. And I dug that. And it also, it also debunks a theory set up in the second film, which is that if you were to give birth to a baby that was not supposed to exist, that you can stop death's design, because that shows some kind of a flaw in his system or something like that. Of course, that ends up not even being part of the second film because of the ending. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But I like that was addressed here. There's also homages to the most famous scene in the Final Destination franchise, which I thought was cool.
Yes.
This movie actually probably has my second gnarliest kill in the franchise. Definitely top 5 for sure. I won't say what it was, but I will say that I don't know. I don't want to give anything away about it. But,
it was really good. I liked it too. I think the biggest criticism is definitely the use of CGI.
There's no way that you're doing this without CG.
No, I think you definitely need the CG, but there was a couple scenes that I was like, they didn't need to do CG for that. That could have been practical easily.
Yeah.
So some of that stuff is a little... It is annoying because it does, you do notice it, so it, kind of takes you out of the film. I didn't think it looked horrible, necessarily, but it's not the best.
I feel like this franchise has had a lot of CG kills in it from, at least in the last few for sure. I'm really used to it. I love how inventive the kills get. We've talked about this plenty on the channel with this franchise, or at least the ones that I've reviewed all of them, and I talk about the Rube Goldberg machine style setup for all of the kills. It's all about the inventiveness.
Yes.
It's all about how elaborate the deaths can become and the ultimate payoff. And I think that we also always need to keep in mind that the MPAA is only going to let so much get through. I am curious on if practical effects versus CGI don't get as much scrutiny because there is a fakeness to them that practicals don't have as much. Like the practicals do feel a little bit more realistic because they literally are more actually there. So I would be curious on if that's part of it. The one kill that we're talking about in particular, the iconic kill of this movie anyways for me, that really pushes the limits of what I think R-rated movies would be able to allow to be get away with. So I don't know. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it just didn't bother me. Yes, I love practical effects. Yes, in tons of slasher movies and whatnot, bad CGI kills can hurt a film.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I just never felt like these were bad. Like, if you're somebody who's just anti-CGI, then you're not going to like the kills in this movie, period. Right? If someone is just like across the board, I don't want it to be CG for any reason, I get it. But I still think they look pretty damn good.
They look pretty good, but they're not the greatest, because I think that if you watch this movie in the future, the CG is going to be very dated looking. And I guess for me, and maybe this is what you're saying, like maybe it will make sense that you can't really use practical effects with this much gore, because there was a few times that I thought it looked a little cartoony.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of the style like that the film has, so I think that's fine.
Goofy.
It is. It does have a lot of humor in it for sure, but I mean, I don't know. I'm not down on the film or anything. Like I was entertained, but I definitely wasn't impressed with like the effects.
Okay.
But
that's fair.
I liked the setups and the kills themselves.
Yeah.
Like I like everything that was going on with that. So.
Yeah, I guess because the tone of the film is so playful at times, and there's such an anxiety-inducing feeling of everything in the film, that the ultimate payoff of just the kill is like the icing, but everything else is the cake. Right? I love all of, every time anything rattles, anytime they show a close-up of anything, every time I'm always like, oh shit, what's that thing? What's that going to do? And then little things, just this, and then you finally find out that this thing does that thing, and you're like, oh my god, you roll your eyes, because you're like, that's so fucking insane, and that's so ridiculous, but I love it. I'm always so happy. I don't know.
The kills are like a relief. You're like happy that they're finally dead, and you don't have to sit there and be like,
anxious about 18 different things that could have killed them during that scene. Yeah. I don't know. I love these movies. I have a great time with them. I think most people are going to be very happy with this one.
If you like the other Final Destination movies, like this doesn't do anything super crazy different or anything, so I think it'll be on par. I think you'll enjoy it and be entertained.
Yeah.
It's not a film that I think will make the top 10 at all for me.
Yeah.
I can say pretty easily, but I think it's entertaining. I think it's kind of like a crowd-pleasing kind of film.
Yeah.
Like just one that you can have fun with.
Yeah. So, and shout out to Tony Todd.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is his last movie he ever filmed. It's got to be close to. He looked near death in this movie for sure. I think he just wanted to close out this franchise, and they do a really good tie-up with him. The way they incorporate him into this, I guessed it very quickly, very early, but that's fine. I thought it was a really smart way, and the fact that he was dying while making this movie, and this was his last movie, I thought this was a really cool send-off for him. And his closing lines and all of that stuff were great for his character and for him as an actor, and the fact that this franchise is all about death's inevitability.
Yeah. And
it ending with the main character actor of this franchise dying along with it. I thought it was a really cool kind of send off to him and the end of this era within the franchise.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think because he's gone that they can't do more. Of course they can. They just won't be able to have that character anymore.
Right.
But I was very happy that he got to stick around long enough to have this part end the way that it did and tie into the film the way that it did. And it actually enhances his character and the story centered around him throughout the rest of the franchise for me. So I really enjoyed that stuff as a Final Destination fan. So very, very cool there. But yeah, my assumption is going to be this will be very, very loved by the Final Destination fanboys. That's my guess. We'll see.
We'll see.
It just came out today. So I feel like I have a good track record with guessing how these movies are going to play out for general audiences.
Yeah.
So, and if you have a really small child, consider leaving them home. There was a lot of fucking kids in this theater. Like a lot.
Yes.
Like a lot of really
kind of a
young
shocking
kids.
amount, actually.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I watched movies like this when I was a kid, and I'm fine. I think.
Are you? I don't know.
I would have been fine, but not everybody's me. And I'm not here to tell people how to parent their kids at all. I guess I should just say I was blown away by how many kids were in this theater.
Yeah, there was a ton. I was pretty shocked by it.
Like really young. Like 5 or younger.
Yeah. Like young and old enough to like
know what's
happening,
yeah.
but like young enough for it to still be like traumatizing.
Yeah.
They weren't like babies. They were
No,
like, I'm
they knew
aware
exactly what was happening.
of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy. So yeah. I think this is much better than the director's Kim Possible movie.
I don't know if they ever saw that.
Yeah, they made a Kim Possible movie.
Okay.
They made a couple films, but I just thought it was funny as I was looking through their filmography,
And you're like,
and
Kim
I was like,
Possible?
one of the last things they made before this was like the Kim Possible movie. I think that's what I saw. Yeah, and I was laughing. They had a few kids things in a row, and then they followed.
That's why the kids were
That's why
there.
the kids were there.
They're
Like, Mom, it's from the director of
Kim
Kim
Possible."
Possible.
They got fooled.
And they were acting, and they're, what's happening?
Yeah.
This is Kim Possible.
That was good.
No, it isn't. That was a bad
That's
joke.
what watching horror movies at a young age will do to you.
Make you really funny.
Sure.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.